He's already been kicked out by the Seychelles. There's a lot of European countries looking for him. There's also a lot of other associates that is here with him that are fleeing from other countries, that are wanted by other countries.
You can look at, it's a who's who, really.
It's all foreigners that's being killed. And it's all fugitives, and they're all either being, the governments are either looking for them for war crimes, tax evasion, or already been found guilty in their countries, and now they come to South Africa, which is a lucrative country to commit crime.
Paul O'Sullivan is an independent security consultant. He's the former head of South Africa's airport security. He created the dossier on the Selebi Agliotti relationship and is largely responsible for the investigation into Krejcir. For safety reasons, Mr. O'Sullivan joins us on the line from an undisclosed location this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Good morning. How are you?
So, Mr. O'Sullivan, tell us, is this latest escapade, is this the beginning of the end for Radovan Krejcir in South Africa, as you see it?
Yes, I think definitely his empire is crumbling. He's just pushed it too far, and I think we're now seeing the results of the hard work of the Hawks. They've been busy for quite some time now into him. The South African Revenue Services have been busy in investigating him for over 2 years now, and we've seen the results of that. They've pretty much frozen everything that he owns. It'd be interesting to see where all the cash is, because we know that in the last year he's probably stolen somewhere in the region of about 100 million, which has been swept from dormant bank accounts. And I imagine a lot of that is sitting in boxes somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it will soon run out.
So, Sullivan, why has Radovan Krejcir been able to operate freely for so long in South Africa?
Well, we mustn't forget that his arrest last Friday is actually the 4th time he's been arrested. I put together some previous dockets which resulted in being arrested, but then the witnesses either changed their minds, or in the case of some of the instances against him, the witnesses took off overseas, or in fact they died. So it's very hard to make things stick to a man like this, but I think he's run out of luck this time.
What do you make of the circus that followed the arrest on Friday, with illnesses and everything that's gone on the last couple of days?
Well, this is nothing new for Radovan Krejcir or his lawyers. They're experts at creating these so-called red herrings. At the end of the day, it's not going to detract from the facts, and the facts are he's a dangerous criminal, and he belongs behind bars, and I think that's where he's going to stay.
Can you take us back to the beginning a little bit and tell us a little bit more about Krejcir and where did it start for him in South Africa?
Well, it started for him when he arrived in South Africa. I mean, he spent the first 2 or 3 months in the country in a prison cell, which he shared with a guy who everybody thought at that stage was George Smith. It turned out that he was living in the country on fake papers, and his real name was George Luca. Now, George Luca is back in Cyprus awaiting extradition, if it's going to happen. I don't know if it will, to this country. George Luca has made it clear that he phoned General Mabasa on the night of the murder of Lolly Jackson to tell General Mabasa that he had witnessed the murder and who had killed him. Mabasa then told the whole world that Luca had phoned him to tell him that he had killed Jackson. So, it subsequently transpired that General Mabasa was on Krejcir's payroll. Now, there's a whole lot of other murders connected to him, the most notable of which is the German businessman Uwe Gambara. And I'm adamant that we will be able to convict Krejcir in respect of that murder.
Just explain to us how big this story really is, and maybe you can give us an insight with where a guy like Radovan Krejcir would sit globally in the so-called underworld.
Well, all these little cells operate. They have sort of unwritten rules as to how they operate. Radovan Krejcir, having spent a number of years in the Czech Republic committing crime, eventually ran out of luck there and ducked to the Seychelles, and he's been busy there for a couple of years before his luck ran out and he came here. And as I have it, he was about to leave and go to Argentina, where he would have been a small fish in a big pond. Now here he's a big fish in a small pond.
Mr. Sullivan, we've just got a story, breaking news actually right now, that a Hawks member has been arrested in connection with a so-called kidnapping. Can you give us any information or just an opinion on that?
No, I'm not in a position to do that. I think I've had a chat with a general last week, and what I've agreed to do is not to preempt their steps that they're taking, and I think it would be very unfair of me to break my word on that.
Okay, let's move on to the wider picture then. What does this arrest mean in the fight against organised crime in South Africa?
Well, I think it shows that we are capable of winning the war. You know, the problem we have is people like Radovan Krecir create the impression that this is a lawless society. And I must admit, in the last 5 years that I've been investigating, and there's been a few moments along the way where I've thought to myself, wow, you know, this is going to be a hard one to crack. But the last 2 years, I've just put my head down and I've kept gathering information and passing it on to the Hawks, and I think we're finally going to crack it. And we're going to send out a signal that South Africa is not a haven for people that are fugitives from other countries, and they're going to have to face the music if they come here.
You're then confident that the Hawks case is very strong. You've been working on it for a number of years, I would think.
Their case is rock solid. As I say, I've been working on Radovan Krejcir since 2009, and I have absolutely no doubt that the man will face many charges. I mean, what he's been arrested and charged for now is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more charges to follow. And I've got no doubt that he will get some very lengthy prison sentences.
And over the weekend you spoke about his wife and sons have left the country, reports they might be in Mauritius and so forth. Could you maybe shed any light on that for us this morning?
Well, I'm at the point that I changed the sworn statement last Monday. And the sworn statement that I changed last Monday indicated that Radovan Krejcir was going to duck to Argentina. The person who gave me the sworn statement mentioned that his wife and kids were going to leave on the Wednesday. They did leave on the Wednesday, which means the information given was credible. Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that steps have been taken to make sure Krejcir did not vanish to Argentina. Now, despite what his lawyers may be saying, he was planning to flee, and I have no doubt about that.
Mr. O'Sullivan, thank you very much for joining us this morning. That is independent security consultant Paul O'Sullivan, a man that has been integrally involved in building the case against Radovan Krejcir, giving us an insight as to how things will develop over the weeks and months to come.